All right, so I hope you can see the screen very well, everyone.
Yes, see it very well.
Yes,
Okay,
teacher.
so let's just have a look at the next one, comparison and contrast. I believe that everyone understand the meaning of the word comparison and the meaning of the word contrast. Basically, when you are writing comparison and contrast, you are writing in order to point out the similarities of two things, to object, to people, or to places. Oh, you can also write the comparison and contrast in three different ways. One is to write only comparison, and another one is to write only the contrast, and the last one is to write only both comparison and contrast. So let me explain you in words here. I will write something for you there in order to make it clear. Comparison and contrast. You see the word here, everyone? I'm writing in word now.
Yeah, can see it.
Yes, teacher.
Remember, as I mentioned already, when we are looking at comparison and contrast, you can just write the comparison and contrast in three different ways. One is comparison. The second one is contrast. And the, the third one is comparison and contrast. So now, when you are writing comparison, comparison is written to show only the similarity of the two object. For example, you may write to compare two object. Or you can also use another one, point out. Okay, to show or point out only the similarities of two objects, to people, or to places. That is how you define comparison. Okay, remember, when you are writing a comparison, you are writing to point out only the similarities of the two topics, two objects, two people, or two places. But when you are writing the contrast, so it is the contrast only. The contrast is written to show, or you can also use another term, point out only the differences of the two objects, okay, to people, or to places. So here you focus only comparison, and then you can focus only the contrast. But when you include both, okay, both comparison and contrast is written to show or point out both the similarity of, similarity and differences of the two object, to people or two places. So remember, everyone, it is your own decision to decide. Sometimes it also depends on the topic as well, whether you are asked to write only the comparison, or you are asked to write the contrast, or you are probably asked to write both the comparison and contrast. Again, I just want to point out, when you are writing the comparison, you are writing to show the similarities of two objects, two people, or two places. But if you are asked to write the contrast, you point out only the differences. The last one, you may also include both similarities and differences of your writing, including the different and the similarities of the two objects, two people, or two places. That is how we define comparison and contrast. Remember, there are three ways to write comparison and contrast. One is comparison only, okay? Contrast only. The last one is both comparison and contrast. Okay, so that's just the definition for you. So let's just go back to our slide. So let's see. A paragraph that compares show how two things are similar. A paragraph that contrasts show how two things are different. And a paragraph that compares and contrasts shows both similarities and differences. Comparison and contrast are important because they often help us decide which of two people or things is better. All right, remember, writing the comparison and contrast analysis is very important for us as the writer, because generally we are making the comparison, we are making the contrast in our life. Even when you are, planning to buy a car, for example, you will have to compare two different cars, okay? You will have to compare two kinds of cars, probably Toyota and Toyota, or maybe what?
Rolls Royce.
Yeah, yeah, probably Rolls Royce, or I don't know many kinds of cars. I mean the name. Okay, Toyota or Honda, for example, you may compare the two. So even when you decide to study at university, you will also need to compare to university to see which one is better. Okay, so comparison is very important in our life. For example, by comparing and contrasting two political candidates, we can decide whom to vote for. You see, before you vote for any political parties, you need to make some comparison first to see which candidate or which political party is much better than others. Okay, and then we will make the right decisions to vote for the one we love. All right, so like here, by comparing, contrasting two political candidates, we can decide whom to vote for. By comparing and contrasting two cars, we can decide which to buy, okay, which car to buy. As I mentioned, the really comparison and contrast analysis plays very important roles in our daily life, because we generally make comparison, we generally contrast. This is also very important for ladies. For example, two guys love you at the same times, and then you will have to compare the two. And in order to make up your own mind which guy to choose, or which guy you want to marry, for example. Next one, comparison and contrast also help us better understand items compared and contrasted. For example, by comparing and contrasting the working of human brain and computer, we can better understand the operation of both. You see, comparison is important. Contrast is also important. Remember, basically, when you are asked to write these kinds of writing, you will have to read the topic very carefully, whether you are asked to write or to point out only the comparison or the similarities, or you are asked to point out only the differences, or you are asked to point out both the similarities and the differences. So that is your own decision sometimes, but it also depends on the topic as well. All right, so in order to help you understand the comparison and contrast, it's just one of you to have a look at this one. I'm not going to read through this paragraph, but it's just one of you to spend your own time reading this short paragraph in order to see how comparison and contrast is written. All right, so without delay, I just want to go to the next part of our comparison and contrast. As I mentioned previously, when you are writing the paragraph, any types of paragraph, you will be asked to include both the topic, the supporting sentences, and the concluding sentence of your paragraph. So in that case, there will be some specific terms or key terms for you to help understand whether the topics of that paragraph wants you or requires you to include only the comparison, to include only the contrast, or to include only both comparison and contrast. So let's see the topic sentence. The topic sentence for comparison and contrast includes the writer's topic and view of the topic. You see, the topic and the view of the topic. The topic is the item to be compared and or contrasted. All right, so that's two, because you will have two topics there. For example, like you might be asked to compare Norton University and Bill Bright University. You may have that kinds of topic, Norton University versus Bill Bright University. In that case, you might be asked to point out the similarities of the two universities, Norton University and Bill Bright University, or you might be asked to contrast or to show or to point out only the differences between Norton University and Bill Bright University. Sometimes you probably be asked to include both the similarity of the two universities and the differences of the two universities as well. All right, the topic is the item to be compared and or contrasted. The view can also be on how the writer feels about the item. Okay, take another look at the topic sentence of Sheikh, the image of the Sheikh. Here, let's see the example. The Arab Sheikh is nothing like his media image. So in that case, if you are looking at this topic sentence of this comparison and contrast analysis, you will see that these topic sentence include the topic, which is here, the Arab Sheikh. Okay, this is the topic. And the writer view is that there is a difference between the media image of the Sheikh and the real Sheikh. So this is going to be, okay, the controlling idea. So don't forget, the topic sentence for the comparison and contrast include the topic. The topic is the item to be compared or the item to be contrasted, while the controlling idea or the writer view is how the writer feels about the topic. The next important part is the supporting details, the supporting points for the comparison and contrast. When you compare, your supporting details explain the ways the items are alike. So if you are writing only the comparison, in that case, you will point out only the similarities of the two items. When you contrast, your supporting details explain the ways the items are different. You see, if you are writing the contrast, and then you will be writing to show only the differences, come up with only the differences between the two items. But if you include the compare and contrast in your writing, and then your supporting details explain the points of similarities and the points of difference. So you include both the similarities of the two items and also the differences of the two items as well. Ordering supporting details. Your supporting details can be ordered in two ways, subject by subject or point by point. Okay, remember when you are writing your process, your comparison and contrast analysis, you will have to organize your supporting details. As I mentioned already, supporting details are sometimes the similarities of the two items. Your supporting details are sometimes the differences of the two items, and your supporting details are sometimes both the similarities and the differences of the two items. Whether you are writing comparison only, you are writing the contrast only, or you are writing both the comparison and contrast, you need to organize your ideas. So your supporting detail or your supporting points can be organized, can be arranged in two ways. Point by point here. Point by point. So in order to avoid mistake here, point by point. And subject by subject and point by point. Let's see what subject by subject pattern and what point by point pattern is. In a subject by subject pattern, you say everything about your first subject, and then you go on to say everything about your second subject. Shake the image of the shake follow this pattern. First, the writer explained the popular image, and then he explained what the shake actually is like. Okay, so that is the first pattern, subject by subject pattern. You can just have a look at an outline here in order to see what the subject by subject pattern is. An outline of this paragraph using subject by subject pattern looks like this. Here, if you look at this one, so this is going to be the point to compare. Okay, popular image, reality, and yeah. So you will have to say everything about the popular image here, which includes appearance, personality, lifestyle. While you go on to the next, point. This is the first. This is going to be called the first subject. Okay, this is the first item, and you will include everything about the first item, and then you move to the second item. You will also include everything in the second item as well. So let's just have a look at this. So you will have the first subject here, popular image. You will say everything about the popular image. So the popular image include what? Include appearance, personality, lifestyle. And when you go to the second subject, reality, you also include appearance, personality, and lifestyles as well. So this is the first pattern. When you go to the second one, this is point by point. Everyone, you can just have a look at this one. This is point by point. Okay, this is subject by subject. So if you look at this one, subject by subject pattern, let's just see the two topics sentence. My two cousins are very different. Here, this is subject by subject. You say Johnny and Mary. The difference is in terms of appearance, personality, hobby, and interest. And then you will have to say the differences, the different appearance, the different personality, and different hobby and interest of Johnny. And then you go on to say the difference appearance, personality, and hobby or interest of Mary. Okay, so this is subject by subject. And if you look at the next one here, this is point by point. All right, so you will have to see this again here. My two cousins are very different. And then you will just point out the difference of the appearance between Jenny and Mary. And then you move to the difference of the personality between Jenny and Mary, and then you move to the last part, which is about hobby and interest, the different hobby and interest of Jenny and Mary. And then the last one here is your concluding sentence. So here you use the word different, and this is the word opposite. So they are different in terms of what? In terms of, appearance, personality, hobby. Hello, everyone.
Yes,
Yes,
teacher.
teacher.
Yes,
Okay.
teacher.
You still hear me? You still listening, right?
Yeah, listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
In order to make your comparison and contrast, our live will end in the next 10 minutes. Okay, so let's just continue. So in order to make your comparisons and contrast analysis go smoothly when you're writing, don't forget to use some of the transitions that signal comparison and contrast. Everyone, you might find it a little bit difficult to come up with the ideas whether you will have to include the comparison. I mean, you include the similarities only, you include the differences only, or you will have to include both the similarity and differences in your writing. Most of the time, in order to help you decide whether to include only the similarities, whether to include only the differences, or to include both the similarity and differences, you will have to read your topic sentence. You will have to read your topics very carefully. Okay, read the topic carefully in order to see where, in order to find out whether you are asked. Okay, you are asked to include only the similarity, to include only the differences, or probably to include both the similarity and differences of the two items. There will be the key terms for you as well. And in order to make your idea flow in writing the comparison and contrast, don't forget the comparison transition signal and the contrast transition signal. All right, so let's see here. Transition that signal comparison and contrast include, so you will see the table in the next slide. When you write a comparison and contrast paragraph, you may need to draw on transitions that signal comparison and contrast. These appear in the following chart. So let's see here. This is transition that signal comparison, okay? So when you are writing comparison, you will have to use all of this transition signal. So you have the first one here, like in the same way. So I will have to include this here like this. And also in addition, you have both, each of, just, as, so, similarly, like, to, the same. So all of these are transition signals that are used in order to show the similarities of the items you are comparing. The next one here is the transition signal that's used in order to show the contrast, to show the differences. So you have although, whereas, however, conversely. Here you also have another one on the other hand, in contrast, while, yet, unlike, nevertheless, and nonetheless. Okay, so all of this are transition signals that are used in writing the contrast. So here, comparison. Let me write another one. Similarity. Okay. I just want to make sure that the comparison point out similarity. The difference here, this one is different. All right. So let's just highlight this so that you remember transition signal that show difference, and this is transition signal that show similarity. All right, so I just want to read this short paragraph for you in order to see how the writers come up with the comparison and contrast ideas in writing this, and what transition signals are used in order to link the supporting details. All right, let's just see it here. Even though Arizona and Rhode Island are both states of the US, they are strikingly different in many ways. You see some key terms there, everyone? Do you see some key terms there that help you to decide whether this paragraph is comparison, contrast, or both comparison and contrast? I believe that everyone see the key terms here, right? Even though Arizona and Rhode Island are both states of the US, they are strikingly different in many ways. Here, this paragraph focuses on the differences. Okay, you will see. For example, the physical size of each state is different. Arizona is large, having an areas of blah 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 square miles, whereas Rhode Island is only about a tenth the size, having an areas of only blah 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 square miles. Another difference is the size of the population of each state. There are about 4 million people living in Arizona, while Rhode Island has less than 1 million. The two states also differ in the kinds of natural environments that each has. For example, Arizona is a very dry state consisting of light desert areas that do not receive much rainfall every year. However, Rhode Island is located in the temperate zone and receives an average of 44 inches of rain per year. In addition, while Arizona is a landlocked state and thus has no seashore, Rhode Island lies on the Atlantic Ocean and thus have a significant coastline. In brief, Arizona and Rhode Island are both located in US, but they have several dissimilarities. You see, they do not use the same word different, so they use the word dissimilarities. So this paragraph is only about the contrast, pointing out only the differences between Rhode Island and Arizona. All right, so this is the next one, everyone, the next example paragraph, my hawks. And I just want you to read this on your own, okay? I'm not going to read everything for you. So let me finish the comparison and contrast analysis here. And if you have any questions, you can ask. We have only around 1 minute. 1 minute. Yeah, around 1 minute. Tao bây giờ miền trồng ngáo miền sầm muối bộ nại số bộ dương nó sao mùi nè ti chiên tiết dương nó bị chọc cả lai nè.
No question.
How about others?
No question.
Everyone, I am not going to go live in the second session, okay? I'm not going live there. you will probably be sent an exercise to do.
Okay, teacher.
So no need to join live in the second one, okay? I will send you the exercise on comparison and contrast, and I will give you around 40 minutes to finish. And when you finish, you will have to send your work to my personal Telegram.
Okay, teacher. Got it.
Okay.
Teacher, can we do the task by typing